All right, why don't we get started? This is John Mancini. I'm the Chief Evangelist at AIM, and welcome to our Content Marketing Clinic. We are recording this, so if you'd like to share it with some of your colleagues after the fact, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to turn it over in a moment to my colleague, Tony Paley, who will talk about a topic that I find really interesting, which is this idea of how do you find good leads among your inactive prospects. And before doing so, just wanted to highlight a couple of items in the handouts section. So if you look at the handouts section on your tab, you'll see a couple things there. One is an AIM Media Kit, which if you're not familiar with AIM and all the variety of services that we provide to the sell-side community in terms of positioning your products and offerings, that's a good download to take a look at. Secondly, we also do a fair amount of custom work with people, and that's under the tab Content Marketing Advisory Services. And then lastly, we also work with companies to create what we call lead nurturing programs for companies that sponsor a number of white papers and articles and webinars with us. We integrate that whole experience so that what we try to do is move people across a nurturing spectrum and do that on your behalf by us, which you'll find a sample of what that looks like in that tab. So if you haven't taken a look at any of those materials, please do. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tony, and we'll take about 20 minutes. Please feel free to chime in with any questions on the chat field or on the questions field as we get into this. And it's just a short overview, but I think you'll find it interesting because leads are expensive. We're in the lead provision business, so we know how valuable leads are to all of our customers. But we also, try to figure out ways that we can be more creative in terms of re-engaging people who maybe have just fallen off the map a bit. When you think about how busy people are and how difficult it is to keep attention of people, sometimes people just lapse and they don't even intend to lapse. And so Tony is our guru of all things inbound marketing and guru of all things HubSpot. He's extremely awesome at this, and I think you'll find the workflows that he set up within our own HubSpot environment. If you're a HubSpot customer, it'll be interesting, but even if you're any other marketing automation product customer, it'll give you some ideas maybe of how to think about those folks that you've lost contact with, that you would like to restore contact with. And I think we'll find that it's a much cheaper way of getting leads than starting from scratch every single time. So Tony, let me turn it over to you, and you can give people some idea of the magic that you have performed on our behalf here at AIM.
Great, thanks, John. Hi, everybody. My name is Tony Paley, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at AIM. And just like John said, we're going to be talking about finding good leads among your inactive prospects. I'm going to kind of walk you through a challenge that we all face as marketers and how we solved it here at AIM using HubSpot. Now, you don't have to use HubSpot to solve this problem, and this process that I'm going to walk you down, you can do in almost any good marketing automation software. So if you're not using HubSpot, don't tune out, don't get frustrated. You can probably do this in Marketo or any of the other great marketing automation software available on the market. So let's get started. Now, how do you actually change slides here? John, do you know? I've actually never done this before.
Oh, I apologize, Tony. If you're in the presentation, you just click like you normally would. So you have to highlight it.
There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. First timer here. So according to HubSpot, every year 25% of your subscribers will lose interest and stop opening your emails. Now 25% is a huge percent. You're spending all of this time and money and energy to generate these leads, nurture these leads, and you're losing 25% a year just to lack of interest. They just stop opening your emails and they become unengaged with you. Let's talk a little bit about why this happens. There's 4 main reasons. Some you can do something about, some you just can't. The first is that you're just emailing them too frequently. Studies show that the most engaged email that you send someone is the first email that you send them. And every subsequent email, you're losing more and more of that engagement and the opportunity to reach them. After about 20 emails, you've pretty much lost all hope. That lead is essentially dead in the water. So if you're sending 5 emails a week, you have basically 4 weeks to reach that person. Otherwise, they're essentially no good to you. Your emails have started to feel stale. This is something that you really can't do a whole lot about. You can do the best marketing in the world, but there's only so many angles you can approach a problem in explaining your product or service. And after a while, your marketing is just going to feel stagnant to someone that's been on your list for a long time. The third reason is maybe they just wanted a piece of your content. Here at AIM, we're huge proponents, gigantic fans of inbound marketing, content marketing, but once in a while, people are going to enter your list just because they want that one piece of content. They're not necessarily interested in your product or service, and they're going to eventually lose interest with you, and they're going to stop engaging with you. That's not a bad problem to have. And finally, they're just not interested in what you have to offer anymore. Maybe they were, maybe they went with a competitor, maybe whatever need they had that your product or service solves, they no longer have. Again, there's not a whole lot you can do about it, and that's not a bad problem to have. It's just one of the many reasons that someone may stop engaging with you. So after I heard that statistic, about 25% of your subscribers you lose annually to lack of interest, I looked to see how many people we had at AIM, and I was surprised by the number. Even more surprising was that we were treating the unengaged subscribers the same as everyone else. You don't want to do this. This is something that you want to avoid at all costs. Just for emphasis, let's put a big red X on that. Why is it so bad to treat unengaged subscribers the same as engaged subscribers? Because reputation is everything. Now, when we talk about reputation, we're talking about sender reputation. For those of you that might not know what sender reputation is, that is your reputation with the various email service providers out there. So you might have a sender reputation with Gmail, with Hotmail, with Verizon, Comcast, one for every email service provider, and any of them will have different rating systems and algorithms, so they'll have a different score with all of them. There are two things essentially that affect your sender reputation as it relates to emailing unengaged email subscribers: spam complaints and bounce backs. Now let's talk about spam complaints a little bit. You provide that unsubscribe button at the bottom of the email, and you think in your head, you know what, if people don't want this, they'll unsubscribe. That's not always the case. People have varying understandings of technology. Sometimes they don't see that unsubscribe, and you are going to get spam complaints no matter what. But if you're sending to people whose behavior indicates that they're not interested in your emails, the chances of getting more spam complaints increases substantially. Now let's talk about bounce backs. If you are treating everyone the same and you're sending out these blanket campaigns, you are undoubtedly sending to people who maybe their email address has changed, maybe they're no longer at that company, heaven forbid they have passed away. You're going to get hard bounces back, and that's going to affect your sender reputation as well. So what does it mean to have a low or a bad sender reputation? That means that the email service provider will start treating you differently. So, and it's not just an email address. So maybe you send from a whole variety of email addresses all on a single domain. That doesn't matter to them. They focus on the domain, your domain to their domain. So let me give you an example. Say AIM sends John Mancini at aim.org 5 emails, and John doesn't open any of them. And then we send A. Paley, which is my email address, apaley@aim.org, 1 email. Our email service provider might say, well, let's see, they sent 6 emails in total, 5 didn't get opened, we're not going to even bother sending that 6th one, or we're going to block it from the server. So even though John may have gotten 5 of those, and I got the 6th one that, or would have gotten the 6th one that was blocked, that's kind of how they behave. So let's explore what we did to treat those people differently. First, we wanted to identify them, and second, we want to see how we might be able to re-engage those people to find some good leads among those unengaged prospects. What you want to do is create a re-engagement campaign. This is a series of emails that you send to only your unengaged subscribers or unengaged prospects to identify them. You really want to think of this as a campaign, not just a single email. I recommend writing 3 emails. You may want to test that with your own audience. Maybe 2 emails is the right number. Maybe it's 5. I like 3. It worked for our audience. So let me show you the 3 emails that we created. This is email 1. Now we did some things a little bit differently here to increase the likelihood that this campaign will be a success, and I'll point them out to you. This first sentence here is very different from the type of marketing that we usually do. We wanted it to be playful and fun. The subject line, which isn't listed here, was something like, "This song reminded us of you." And we did that because we wanted them to take them by surprise. We didn't want them to block out, mentally that noise that we've been sending them. Secondly, we sent it from me. A lot of emails from AIM don't come from me personally. So we wanted to give a new name, a new from name, and a new from email address. So it kind of took them by surprise to increase the likelihood that this was opened, and they could see, hey, these guys want to make sure that I want to stay subscribed. We provided a CTA that says, yes, please keep me subscribed, so they know that there's the chance that they may no longer be subscribed if they don't continue with this campaign. Email number 2, we wanted to get a little bit more serious, a little bit more realistic about what's happening. So you'll notice that the headline here says, we'll explain the bad news first because we like to end on a good note. And then we explain that we've noticed that you haven't been opening any of our emails. We want to make sure that you're interested in still receiving them. We don't want to bother you. Email number 3, you'll notice, goes even more serious. So you're taking them kind of down that path from very light, very silly, to a little bit more realistic, to a little bit grave. We've removed you from our email list. If this was a mistake or you want to get back on the list, just click this button. So that was step 1, was to write these emails and kind of walk them down this path to identify whether or not they still want to be on our email list. Step 2 was to create our success landing page. So when they actually click that big blue button in any of those 3 emails I just showed you that says, yes, please keep me subscribed, we wanted to confirm that the action has been taken and received, and we know that they want to stay on the list. So we created this landing page. It's not shown here, but this image is actually a GIF, and it shows the guy from Mythbusters dancing around. So it's silly, it's fun. We did this to remind them why they joined us in the first place, that being on our list is a fun place to be. So it says, thank you for sticking with us. We're so happy you decided to stay subscribed to our mailing list. We just can't contain ourselves, because it shows the person dancing, welcome to the party. So light, fun, again, just reminding them, hey, this is why you joined us. You're going to have a good time on our mailing list. That was step 2, was to create that landing page, confirming that that action has been taken. Step 3 was to set up a goal list. Now, the goal list is a list of people identifying that they have, in fact, re-engaged with us. Now, you need this list to track your conversion rate, because it's really important to judge the success of your campaign. So this is what the criteria to be on that goal list was. They either clicked the link in email 1, they clicked the link in email 2, or they clicked the link in email 3. And this, again, just helps us identify that those people successfully converted, meaning we're successful in keeping them on our list and identifying that they want to stay on that list. And that lets us know how well we've done with the campaign. Step 4 is to set up the failure list, which is the exact opposite of the goal list, and that says anybody that went all the way through that campaign and didn't take action, those are officially unengaged subscribers that we no longer want to email for the benefit of our sender reputation. Step 5 is to define your workflow criteria. So actually setting up that workflow so that this is an automated process. You don't want to be doing this manually. You want to take yourself out of it as much as possible. That's why you're paying money for an automated, marketing software. So let's look at what that workflow criteria looked like for us. We use the criteria of anybody in terms of identifying who is an unengaged subscriber. The contact property, meaning the individual, their last email open date is more than 39 weeks ago. That ends up being, I believe, about 9 months. And they haven't visited our website over that same time frame, 39 weeks, about 9 months. This 39 weeks or 9 months is very conservative. Best practices suggest 6 months. Some companies are even more aggressive, and they say 3 months. So if someone hasn't visited your website or opened your email in 3 months, then they are roping those people off. We chose 9 months initially as a test. If I were to do this over again, knowing what I know, I would probably reduce it. We could probably optimize this and reduce it anyway. But we base that 9 months kind of on our sales cycle. We know that it takes about 9 months from when someone first enters our database to the point of when they usually make a purchase, a paid purchase with us. So you might want to play with that. You might want to test it for your own audience. Talk to your sales folks and find out what your sales life cycle length is, and that will be a good place to start. Step 6 is to actually create that automated workflow. So let's look at what that looked like for us. So anybody that meets that criteria that I just showed you will enter this workflow where they receive email number 1. We inputted a delay of 5 days, and then they'll receive email 2, another 5 days, and they receive email 3. These 5 days were based on not wanting to bug the people too much, but wanting to make sure that we're staying in touch. So that way it takes 10 days from start to finish. A lot of people take vacations that might be a whole work week, 5 days, so they'll be gone for 7 days or 10 days. We want to make sure that this kind of weeded out anybody that might be on a week-long vacation, just to increase the likelihood of success. You can play with this. You can optimize this. You do not have to do 5 days. You can run A/B tests on this to see if there is any change in your success rate based on the delays, the number of emails, basically anything you can test for. What makes this really good is, or makes HubSpot really good for this, and I think a lot of other marketing automation software does this as well, is if you look on the right-hand side, you can see it tells you what the click rate was and how many people joined the goal list as a result of those emails. So you can optimize this. You can say, well, I expected email number 1 to do better than email number 2, but we're seeing here that email number 2 got a 3.52% click rate. That's really good. That's an exceptional click-through rate. 757 people joined the goal list from email 2. Email number 1 might be underperforming a little bit. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what made email number 2 more successful, or as successful as it was, and see what we can learn from that to apply to email 1 to optimize the process. Step 7 is to create your unengaged exclude list. So what that means is anybody that is that went through and is on, went through the workflow and did not take action and was added to your fail list, that is one criteria. And the second criteria is anybody that is currently active in that campaign itself. Now, the reason you create this list is because you want to remove these people from all of your other marketing campaigns. If you're sending out a marketing email for one of your products or one of your services, you don't want to send it to anybody that is currently in that campaign, and you don't want to send it to anybody that has gone through that campaign and hasn't engaged with you. And the reason, going back to your sender's reputation, is you want to maintain that sender reputation. You want to be in the good graces of those email service providers. So using this strategy, AIM was able to re-engage contacts at a rate of 2.5%. This is a number that I'm very proud of. All the research that I've done, the best numbers I can find, from the best marketers in the world that are willing to share their numbers, for a re-engagement campaign like this, the best you can ever expect is about 3%. Most of the time, it's 1.5% to 2%. So 2.5%, 2.5, 1% is a number that I'm very happy with. What this means is, for everybody that goes 9 months without opening an email from us, using this campaign that's constantly running in the background, we're able to re-engage those contacts at a rate of 2.51%. And that is basically just free leads for us. And we found that if you put these leads then into a workflow to try to nurture them again, re-engage them again after this process, there's a good chance that you'll find some leads that are willing to spend some money with you. So thank you so much. That's all I have planned, and let's open it up to questions and see what you guys think.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony. It's I've heard the story before, but I still find it really, really impressive. And there's a couple questions, and then I'll turn the recording off and we'll adjourn. But just a couple quick ones. One, somebody asks about what's the total number of names in AIM's database, just so they can give a sense of the scale of what it is that you're doing here?
Sure. So the total number is somewhere around, I believe, 240,000 names.
Okay. And then I think there's a kind of a follow-up question, which I think you touched on, which is that is this a one-time, was this a one-time thing, or is this something that automatically runs in the background?
Great question. Yep, it's always running in the background. It's always taking new names. An individual can only go through this campaign one time, but it's automated. It's always running. If I go inactive today, I'm going to go through it. If John goes inactive a year from now, he's going to go through it once he hits that 9-month mark.
Great. And then there was one last question. Oh, here it is. Is that do you know what the total number of people that you've kind of re-engaged, just to put sort of a metric on the value of the campaign?
Sure, that's a great question. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the specific number. But it was around about 2,000 names that we re-engaged successfully.
So that's 2,000. I guess me just thinking off the top of my head, if a lead typically would have a value of $20, $25, $30, $35 a pop, that's a pretty good ROI on an investment basically that runs in the background unsupervised.
Yeah, I mean, it's super easy to set up. It doesn't cost you anything outside of having the software that you most likely have anyways. So yeah, tremendous ROI.
Terrific. Well, I really wanted to thank you for sharing that. I'm going to turn the recording off now.